one of the things that you know, the people that report on our community, you know, mainstream media, you know, they only come to Harlem when they want to report, you know, man bites dog, you know, and that is essentially violence and what a traumatic activity that's going on. All the good things that's happening in Harlem are not reported on, right? You know, it used to be a time when a white person would get off the subway on 110th Street, and the police would be there and tell them, man, look, get back on that train. What are you doing getting off here? You know? But that time has passed. All around us, man, we see the Harlem that I grew up in the 40s, the 50s, is returning. Harlem was not just a place for black people. It was a you know, a middle class, upscale neighborhood, and that's what it was built for originally, right? We see people walking their dogs at midnight, jogging up and down the streets, you know, with shorts on. Nobody's bothering these people, and they keep coming here. So it's not the Harlem, you know, obviously it's not just the Harlem that we see on News One or you know, the drama that we get every day, right? The violence in our community is a small percentage of what's going on in this community, man. It's a small percentage. And the violence is by our youth against our youth. You know, everybody else is safe. Nobody's running around sticking up, you know, working class people, or you know, or burglarizing their houses. None of that. This is ignorance, man. This is youth violence. Youth against youth, man. And what is the cause of it? Well, we always have to look at and follow the money. You know, the underpinnings of this here is that, I just heard today, I think it was, or yesterday on the news, that 50% of the people in New York City are below the poverty level. Below the poverty level, man. There's no jobs. Our schools are failing. You know, there's no after-school programs. Kids are just they just like Energizer batteries. You know, they got to do something, right? And if you don't have nowhere to channel that energy, it's going to turn in on themselves, right? And this is what we witnessing. We witnessing this, you know. So how do we address this? That becomes the question. The question is that we need caring communities, man. We need all the stakeholders in the Harlems of New York City to come together. The churches, the politicians, the community organizations, all of them to come together, man. Harlem is 110th to 155th Street. Ain't no big area, man. Bed-Stuy is another community. South Bronx is another community. Lower East Side is another community. What's happening in our community is happening because of our failure to act. We don't control the politics in our community. We don't control the economics in our community. We don't control anything, right? And yet, I mean, we see the police pull over 10 kids and have them up against the wall, sitting down on the curb, and we walk by like it's the most common thing in the world, man. And everybody knows silence is consent, right? We don't have a community voice. We don't have a community control. Now they're talking about an IG, an Inspector General, to watch over the police. No, we don't need no IG. We need community control of policing, right? But the things they do in our communities, and I'm talking about Harlem, Bed-Stuy, Lower East Side, South Bronx, they don't do in other communities, man. They don't do it in the Jewish community. They don't do it in the Italian community. I haven't seen in all that filming, not one white person was a victim. Not one family, white family, lost a child. Because in the Italian community, the Jewish community, the Irish community, they are a community. You do something in the Jewish community, man, the whole precinct is I mean, they besiege the precinct. Huh? Yeah, they go there, man, and somebody's going to pay. You abuse those people, somebody's going to pay. We don't have that. Right? And until we come together and create this united front in our communities and get all the stakeholders together in our communities and start creating opportunity where these kids see themselves going someplace, man. There's no jobs. And when I came up, man, if there was and there were no jobs, I used to work for $1 an hour delivery job. You know. And if I wanted a suit, I had to buy the pants one week and the jacket the next week. Right? So I hustled. After I got off work, I had a second job. You know, I'd roll up some joints, man, and set up a crap game, you know, and I'd have to, you know, supplement my income. Right? These kids are no different, man. They selling that weed and they doing whatever they doing because everything in the culture tells them that success is the only thing that counts. Huh? The girls look at the TV and all they see is the Braxtons, you know. Yeah. And you look at all the other TV shows, man, it's success. And they don't have it. They don't have it. And they're not accepting it. Right? And the frustration is what's killing them. Right? They want fame. They want to be looked at like Jay-Z and the rest of them. So what do? They walk around with their pants off their ass, man, and you know, and everything they do is about, hey, look at me. Look at me. You know? They don't want to be zeroed out. So the only way that we are going to be able to address this is if we come together and create a community out of a neighborhood. Right? This is what we have to do. Create a community out of a neighborhood. So anything that happens in our community, no longer do we need politicians, man, that are just politicians, you know, out for their own self-interest. They have to represent the community. And if they don't represent the community, they're out of there. Right? That's pretty much it.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add that there are resources in our community. You know, it seems like there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go.
Y'all are resources in our community. All of you are doing. I mean, talk a little bit about the work that you're doing in the community, please.
Well, I'm helping in the area of mentoring. I mentor at 5 different high schools in the area. And the idea is, you know, people are like, oh, well, you're a Black Panther. What's that about? So I try to explain that one of the fundamental things about having been a Black Panther was that our mantra was love your people. Be about who you are. Be about giving and taking care of your people, loving your parents, loving your family, loving your community, loving the people that's coming behind you, and trying to build a community that's going to be worth giving, passing on to the young people coming up behind us. And that's the key to this whole thing, I think, is that means you have to be passionate, and you have to be committed. And there's certain things that you have to give up and sacrifice in order to do this. The other thing is working with young people, and particularly young women, and helping them build their self-esteem. Because that is, Jazz, you raised that, that's so important, is that if we have low self-esteem among the young women, if the young women don't understand that having an education is more important than having whatever it is that the Braxtons have, that's the key to this whole thing, that being somebody means that you can stand up and represent your community in a positive way, that what you bring to the society and the world is a positive thing.
And mastery.
Absolutely.
Shaka.
You want? Yeah, go ahead. I'm done.
I wanted to add, like, Jazz brought up a point that in the Jewish community, the Italian community, the Asian community, that they respond to things. And they respond to it because they have something that we walk over all the time. It's called culture. So we created the Jiname University because we understood that a good education is needed. A good role in the society is needed. But if I don't know who am I, or where I'm coming from, or what do I represent? I can have a master's degree and master nothing. I can have a PhD and end up just like the people I don't want to be. So we said, no, we got to tap back. Wait a minute, I'm African. I built the pyramids. So how do I settle for projects?
That's right.
You know, we don't like to tap into the fact that we are not playing on a level field. Our people, African people, people of color, let's be real. This is not a level field we playing on. We don't know who we are. So yes, the Braxtons, and I ain't blaming the Braxtons, and Jay-Z is not the enemy, because Jay-Z don't run the label that pimps him.
That's right.
The Braxtons don't run the TV station that pimps them. This is a bigger situation, and it's called white supremacy. It's called racism, and it's called colonialism. And there's a profit off my people staying in this position. See, the downside is when you build more jails, you have to fill them. And you can't fill jails if you take guns out the street. You can't fill jails if you teach young children who they really are. Because if I learned about Imhotep being the father of medicine, Akhenaten being the first person to give the world a monotheistic religion, if I learn about the Moors, who are black people, being the first ones to course the seas and plot the, I won't want to sell crack. And this is not knocking no one else's culture, but everyone else has seemed to got that part right. They teach their culture. So that Italian person can say to that young Italian child, well, Italians don't do this because we did blah, 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 blah. Chinese don't do this because we did blah, blah, blah. They don't get it twisted. They got bad in their community too, like we do. It's across the board. But what's lacking is our culture. And as African people, one thing that, see, I'm not from Harlem. I'm from South Bronx, Webster Avenue. So when I came to Harlem, what brought me to Harlem was not the gangster life. That's what kept me here. What brought me here is everybody here knew who they were. I came here and they were talking Marcus Garvey and stuff I had never even heard of. And I watched how that got pushed out the picture. And once that got pushed out the picture, everything else just went full speed ahead. So often when I talk, it's not a very light subject and it makes people twitch in their chairs and, get a little uncomfortable with it. But the reality is I'm a living proof. I'm living proof. I was bad news like the brother beloved, my good brother. I've been shot, stabbed. I did all that. What stopped me was not education, because I got a good education. I came from a two-parent family home. I had a mother and a father, and a couple of mothers and a couple of fathers. The whole neighborhood was my mothers and fathers. But what made me change is when I was incarcerated and somebody told me what my people were worth and what rich history we had. Like Cleo talked about loving yourself. That's what made me get into the movement, because I love myself and I want other people to look like me to love themselves. So that as a community, we can stand up and be proud of not just being from Harlem, but being the people who make Harlem. We want to be the Malcolm X's. We want to be the Marcus Garveys. We want to be the Shirley Chisholms. Every child on that corner wants to be all of that. And then some. But we have to understand that if we don't give it to them raw, we talk about what we do in the community, if we don't give it to them raw, real and direct, we're deluding them and we're playing a vicious game with them. When they go in that school, I'm very into my children's education. I teach. I teach a Monday night culture class in City College free to the community. We teach a workshop on what to do if stopped by the police free to the community. But I know that when you go into these public schools and I go and I speak to children, 99.9% of the teachers do not look like the students. They have good hearts, but they can't relate. They don't understand that scenario. So we have to step in, family. We have to go in there and help and fill that other piece in. You want to do something? Grab a bunch of children and take them to the Museum of Natural History and show them the big Olmec head that's in the Mexican exhibit so they can know that they look just like that head. Well, that's me. We've done that. We've watched children who are Crips, Bloods, and other sorts. Now they done went on to college and doing their thing and beautiful like these young people. but we got to give it to them raw. Nobody gave it to me raw. I had to figure it out later. So if we want to stop a lot of this, give it to them raw. Tell them that, hey, being black is not ugly. There's a car going around, being black is beautiful. That's what they gave to us. They told us black is beautiful. Be uncompromisedly black. And that don't mean we got to hate somebody else. That don't mean we got to be anti-white. It ain't got nothing to do with none of that. It gets misinterpreted because we just love ourselves so much. Most people think we have to hate somebody. Because there's no way in the world they can love themselves and not hate. But it ain't about that. It's about loving who we are. And if everybody on the earth loved who they are equally, then the people that want us to fight one another would be out of power. The people that want us to denigrate and hold each other back would be out of power. So if I don't say nothing else tonight, yeah, that's what we bring to the table, culture.